Well, well, well. The Department of War is trying to wage war against Senator Mark Kelly, a man that has more accolades, more esteemed titles than Donald Trump or his little keg's breath could ever hope or desire to have. That's why they're going after him. The man went into space. He fought wars. Okay? He defended and stood by his wife, former Representative Gabby Giffords, who, remember, was one of the most egregious victims of political violence. The man reads like a character out of a hero's novel. And these small, petty, just petulant children cannot stomach him. So they do what MAGA does best: attack him. That is where we are going to begin today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. Damnation, I'm so happy that you're here. Happy Tuesday. Let's get into it. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Damnation, happy Tuesday. I am so excited that you all are here. So we begin today, with that petty, small, alleged alcoholic, Pete Hegseth, and him deciding to take to the broke down social media platform owned by deranged billionaire Elon Musk to say the following. The video made by the seditious six, I'm pretty sure they probably went into the Situation Room in order to come up with that, was despicable, reckless, and false, encouraging our warriors to ignore the orders of their commanders. Undermines every aspect of good order and discipline. Their foolish screed sows doubt and confusion, which only puts our warriors in danger. 5 of the 6 individuals in that video do not fall under at Department of War jurisdiction. 1 is the CIA and 4 are former military but not retired. So they are no longer subject to UCMJ. However, Mark Kelly, retired Navy commander, is still subject to UCMJ, and he knows that. As was announced, the department is reviewing his statements and actions, which were addressed directly to all troops, while explicitly using his rank and service affiliation, lending the appearance of authority to his words. Kelly's conduct brings discredit upon the armed forces and will be addressed appropriately. Do you all remember just a few months ago when Pete Hegseth looked so small and stupid, standing on that stage talking about warriors and getting rid of woke language inside of apparently what he deemed to be our woke military, as they all looked at him like he was a fucking idiot? Yeah, I remember that as well. And so here he is again, Department of War. Why don't you just scream what it really means? And then going after a man that he doesn't measure up against whatsoever, and using social media, right? Because we think that anything that he is going to bring up before what, a military tribunal, is going to stand when it's clearly that he's showing bias on social media. These people are so dumb it hurts. So here's Tim Kaine, who says the obvious. Hegseth's idiotic tweet branding patriotic Americans the seditious six will compel dismissal of any prosecution under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Clear bias by the president and Secretary of Defense renders a fair proceeding down the chain of command impossible. It's like, it's almost as if, I mean, think about it for a moment. When you fire all the qualified people and then you put in a bunch of people who probably couldn't get jobs at, let's say, I don't know, any big box retail store as a fucking greeter, when you decide to get rid of qualified people and only put sycophants in place, they don't tend to read the manual or that pesky thing called the Constitution. Like, it's amazing to me that this administration continues to make the same stupid mistakes because they think that they're above the law. Right? He thinks that he can go on his broke down social media platform and just pop off, and that you're not supposed to have some type of, what's the word that they're lacking? Decorum. You're not supposed to have any morality clause or anything that you're supposed to abide by. But any thought that these people have immediately, like, just comes spewing out of their mouths on social media. It is so reckless, and it would be funny if this man wasn't in charge of our bombs and things. Do you know what I'm saying? So here comes Paul Rieckhoff on CNN, and he gives his thoughts as to why what Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are doing is absolutely problematic. Like, it's stupid, yes, but also dangerous, because isn't that their wonderful cocktail? Take a listen to this, because I find, again, I tell you, every single goddamn time these people open up their mouths, again, the stupid, it hurts.
With us now, Paul Rieckhoff, founder and president of Independent Veterans of America. Paul, great to see you.
Good to see you.
What message do you think this sends to threaten to recall Senator Kelly for a court-martial?
I think it's exactly what Trump said. He wants to set an example. And Senator Kelly is a noted veteran. He's respected by people from all parties. He's an astronaut. He's a combat Navy aviator. And I think what Trump wants to say is, if I can come after him, I can come after anyone. He's made it pretty clear he wants to come after his political enemies. He wants to intimidate people. I think it's important to remember there are 2 million military retirees in America. So he can come after this guy for his political speech or for something he doesn't agree with. I think he's trying to send a very effective and chilling message, not to senators, but to average people all across the country. And that's why this is so dangerous, so outrageous, so ridiculous, because it's about much more than just these 6 members. This is about free speech in America for 2 million military retirees.
Well, so how does that sit with you then? How does it land with you?
It's terrible. It's absolutely egregiously bad, dangerous, crazy would be an understatement, because this is creeping across the line into authoritarianism. This is crossing the Rubicon. This is going to a space we've never gone before. The idea you can drag him back onto active duty and threaten court-martial, which I don't think he has any grounds to do. But the fact that he's threatening to do it is breaking glass that's never been broken before in the modern military. And it's very, very dangerous. And all Americans, no matter what your political background is, should be outraged.
So Secretary Hegseth wrote on social media, the video made by the seditious 6, and he called them the seditious 6, was despicable, reckless, and false, encouraging our warriors to ignore the orders of their commanders, undermines every aspect of good order and discipline. Their foolish screed sows doubt and confusion, which only puts our warriors in danger. It's the argument the president in the White House has been making for days now. What's your response to that?
It's a total misrepresentation of what everyone can see. I don't think this video was necessary. I think most folks in the military know they have to refuse illegal orders, but it's not seditious. It's not traitorous. It's not something you drag somebody back into wherever for a UCMJ trial. It's weaponizing the Department of Defense. They've been moving the pieces in place to do this for a long time, by purging senior leadership, by removing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, by removing JAGs. What he's done with the Justice Department, we saw how that landed today with Comey and Letitia James. He's now trying to do the same thing with the Defense Department, and he's using Kelly as the first example.
So here's my feeling, right? One, do I think that the video that was put out, do I think that it was necessary? Yes, I do, actually. So I disagree with Paul. I absolutely think that when you are in the military, who is the commander in chief? It is the president of the United States. And what does that mean? That means that you follow what it is that the commander in chief says. Because guess what? Otherwise, you're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your pension. You're going to lose your benefits. So you have to weigh, right, very seriously, do I go ahead and follow these orders that I could be held liable for, not the president? Because remember, folks, the Supreme Court gave him immunity, right? They gave him immunity, said, oh, well, when the president does it, it's not going against the law. So these low-level folks in the military, you know, the ones that are, oh, I don't know, blowing up fishermen in the Caribbean Sea without any type of due process, who do you think that the courts, when this nightmare of Donald Trump is over, who do you think that they're going to be going after? Who gave the order, right? This is like a few good men playing out right in front of us. Who gave the order? Who gave the command? Who will end up going to jail? Who will end up being prosecuted? Because Donald Trump is not going to pass out blanket pardons to those inside the military. He'll give it to Hegseth and Kristi Noem and Rubio and other people. But let's be clear that the ones that are actually carrying out his actions have to weigh the future of their lives and the stability of their families. So do I think that this video needed to be made? Yes, because I think that folks need a reminder that even our allies are saying that what is being carried out in the Caribbean Sea, what is about to be carried out in Venezuela as they evacuate embassies, as they clear airspaces, is illegal. Right? Like the president can't just unilaterally declare war, but that's exactly what he is getting ready to do. And so the actions that are taken right now to try and go after Senator Mark Kelly, a decorated veteran and astronaut, is absolutely a shot across the bow. It is absolutely sending a signal to those inside of the military and outside that if I can come for him, I am absolutely going to come for you. Remember what side your bread is buttered on right now. So what has Mark Kelly's response been? Well, last night, he joined Rachel Maddow, and I'll take a listen to what he said.
Of the 6 Democratic lawmakers who made these statements, which have so upset the president, he's coming after you. At least he's coming after you first. Do you have any opinion as to why he may have singled you out in this way?
I don't know. We would have to ask him that question. Could be him. Could be Pete Hegseth. I don't know. You know, and I would have been really shocked if any other president, you know, did this. But when I saw that tweet today, it kind of sort of made sense. I mean, these two guys, they informed me of this in a tweet, because this is not about the law. This is about the media cycle, and it's about intimidation. And it's almost, the whole thing's almost comical. Like, how does reciting the UCMJ, how is that, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice? We basically repeated the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and they're saying that's in violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's absurd.
I hear you when you say that it is absurd and that it is almost comical, but also that it is intended.
It's intended to work as a threat. It is intended to be an intimidation tactic. It is why they don't actually give a shit about what happens. I'm starting to like think this out, right? You don't actually care about how any of these cases go, because if you did, for instance, with James Comey and Tish James, maybe you wouldn't have had an unqualified beauty queen be the one to issue the indictments. If you actually gave a shit about any of these legal proceedings, then you would put serious people in charge that have their cases buttoned up. But you fired all of the serious people. And now you have these crackerjack folks that are surrounding you. So we have to understand that Donald Trump for his entire life has only ever worked with mob tactics. This is not about the rule of law and what they think that people broke or what they think actually happened. No. It is an opportunity to change the news cycle from the Epstein files, is an opportunity to change the news cycle from how shit the economy is. All of it is a distraction. It doesn't make it any less dangerous what Donald Trump is doing. It doesn't make it any less dangerous that he is working to weaponize the Department of Defense in the same way that he weaponized and has turned the Department of Justice into his own crisis legal firm. But you have to understand what the goal is. The goal isn't actually to court-martial Senator Mark Kelly, because you don't have any grounds, you don't have any evidence of any wrongdoing. and you're taking to social media to air your dismay, right? And to create bullshit nicknames. That's what you're doing. Because if you cared about the rule of law and the process, then you would have serious people in charge. And Keg's breath, no, he ain't that serious, right? And we know that to be true. Speaking of people who, serious or not serious, I will tell you this about Chuck Schumer. I am so tired of him, like tired of him. And so right now, up at the New York Times, this is the title of an article there. Chuck Schumer faces pushback from a fight club of Senate Democrats. A group of liberal senators is quietly challenging the minority leader over his approach to the midterms. Trump in a sign of the party's deep frustration. So here's the first thing. What are the plans? Does Chuck Schumer have any plans? Because I don't know that he does. We haven't seen any. Because one would have thought, and I said this earlier today on Substack with my friend Ahmed Baba. I said this. I said, you know what's funny? And not funny, haha. But what's funny to me is that Republicans rolled out a 900-page, multi-pronged plan in order to take over our government, destroy our democracy, call our institutions, instill fear, and create their Christo-fascist Disneyland, right? That plan was introduced in 2022. Explain to me, like I'm a child, why Democrats couldn't have taken said plan and then develop a counter plan based on all of the actions that were done. Here's your point. Here's my counterpoint. If they do this, we're going to do this. Like they gave you a 2-year head start to put a plan together, and you did absolutely nothing. So here we are now, fast forward, where Donald Trump is rounding out his first year in his second term, and Democrats seemingly still have no plan. Now, I want you to understand that what we saw with the tidal wave, with the blue wave that we saw a couple of weeks ago with the 2025 elections, that had nothing to do with Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries. That had everything to do with the fact that the American people have woken up from their slumber and are absolutely sick and tired of representatives not caring about their basic needs, you know, like being able to put food on the table and medicine in their medicine cabinets and gas in their cars. That they actually want someone. They want fighters, people who are actually willing to stand up for democracy, to go toe to toe with this president and not capitulate to him. And so we arrived at the place that we did on election night 2025, not because of any grand plan that establishment Democrats put together. It was actually in despite of them. So now you have folks inside of the Senate who are being very vocal. So they are a group of influential liberal senators is directly challenging Chuck Schumer's approach to midterm elections. In another sign of growing frustration, the coalition of at least a half a dozen senators who call themselves the Fight Club is unhappy with how Schumer and his fellow senator from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, the head of the Senate Democrats' campaign arm, have chosen, recruited, and they argue favored candidates aligned with the establishment. I mean, folks, we saw that with the fact that Donald Trump embraced Zoran Mamdani before Chuck Schumer did, before Kirsten Gillibrand did. And Hakeem Jeffries did so, but in the 11th hour. Right? Because they don't want anybody rocking their money boat. That's what I continue to say. Because if Zoran Mamdani can roll onto the stage and he's able to win an election without corporate backers, he's able to win an election without money from AIPAC, he's able to get these things done, well then what's your excuse? You don't have an excuse anymore. You're able to actually go into the Oval Office with this authoritarian wannabe dictator and get him to fawn all over you and blow up Elise Stefanik's gubernatorial run because she was trying to frame herself as a savior to New York because Mamdani's coming in with this socialism and it's going to be scary and it's going to be terrible. Zoran Mamdani had Donald Trump literally eating out of his hand. Go ahead, call me a fascist. It's okay. Sometimes you just got to say to them what you want to say. He was interrupting reporters in order to defend Mamdani. So do you think that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries could learn a thing or two? But no, they don't want to, because that means that they would have to shut off the trough from their corporate donors. That means that they would have to get off their asses and offer the American people more than just the crumbs that they've told us to be satisfied with. So the piece continues. The mutinous, which I think is really funny, mood of the senators, who include Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, Tina Smith of Minnesota, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, Bernie Sanders of Vermont, and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, reflects the widespread doubts among the Democratic base that the party leaders in Congress have a strong vision and a winning strategy for returning to power, which they fucking do not. The effort also amounts to an extraordinary preemptive challenge to Schumer at the earliest stages of the 2026 midterm races. He has faced widespread Democratic criticism over his handling of the battles against the White House this year and his refusal to endorse Zoran Mamdani as a Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City. Mr. Mamdani ultimately won. And so I want to bring you to our friend right now, Harry Enton, you know, who I hate polls, but I love this guy's energy, over at CNN, where he breaks down where Trump's approval rating is and who exactly the American people think won the shutdown. I mean, at the end of the day, no one really won the shutdown, right? Federal workers lost. And we don't even know if they're going to get their month's worth of pay back, right? We know that the people of this country lost. But the way that Chuck Schumer and others folded, now Chuck Schumer will say, well, I voted, not to open up the government. Bullshit. Because you whipped and made sure that the 8 people that did side with the Republicans weren't up for re-election. Who did that calculation? Schumer. So either we're to believe that you have no control over your caucus, right? Or we're to believe that you actually worked and colluded with the Republicans in order to reopen the government, right? And sell out the millions of people whose health care is about to go through the roof. Nonetheless, I want you to take a listen to Harry Enton and where he says the poll numbers are now and where he believes, right, the American people are in their thoughts with regard to the shutdown.
Thoughts. I always have thoughts. And on this particular Tuesday morning, I have thoughts 13 days after the shutdown ended. And I think it's pretty clear, at least from a political angle, that Democrats won the shutdown. Why do I say that? Well, first, let's take a look at Donald Trump's net approval rating. It's way down from where it was pre-shutdown, right? Pre-shutdown, his net approval rating was at minus 10 points. Now it's at minus 15 points, the lowest his net approval rating has been during his entire second term in office. So the shutdown, it might have initially been helping Donald Trump out a little bit, or at least his ratings weren't falling. But now his ratings have sunk to a term too low.
What about Democrats? Is there a way to measure how they may have fared?
Yeah, okay. So, a lot of times we look at, okay, what's congressional Democrats' approval rating? I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because what Democrats want is they want to get back into power. And the way they're going to get back into power is by winning the 2026 midterm elections. Unless, of course, there are so many House Republicans who resign over the course of the next year, although that's not likely to happen. But take a look at the generic congressional ballot. Pre-shutdown, they were ahead by 3 points. Where are they now? They're ahead by 5 points. Their lead has widened. It is extended. When you look at those who are absolutely certain to vote, that is likely voters. We saw that in the Marquette University Law School poll last week. This 5-point lead went to 9 points. So the Democratic lead on the generic ballot has widened. Donald Trump's political position has worsened. I don't see how you can look at both of those angles and conclude anything other than Democrats, at least from a political point of view, won this shutdown.
Yeah, so the difference between this number and this number, this is Democrats feeling pretty pretty good heading into the midterms. This is Democrats feeling great.
And that looks a whole heck of a lot like what happened in both New Jersey and Virginia and the special elections so far this year, which is Democrats really, really outperforming the baseline from 2024, which is, of course, what they'll need to win in 2026.
Okay, so 24 hours ago at this time, we thought the White House was going to come out with this plan that Democrats really did seem to like about extending Obamacare subsidies. What do prediction markets say about whether or not that will happen?
Yeah, okay. So you look at the prediction markets at this point, and what you see is the chance of enhanced ACA subsidies extended this year. Still, it's a majority chance, 56%. That's pretty close to 50-50, but a better chance than not. If Democrats get this, and then, of course, they got Trump's approval rating falling and their generic ballot lead widening. Again, I don't see how you can come to the conclusion anything other than they won the shutdown, and not just politically. If this happens, they also won it on the substance-based issues as well.
What do the polls say about whether people want these subsidies extended?
Yeah, okay, so let's just say that it doesn't happen. Then Democrats still have a political cudgel to run against Republicans, because look at this. Favor extending enhanced ACA subsidies. 70% of Americans overall favor, 75% of independents. This really puts Republicans in a box, because if they don't extend the ACA subsidies, expect that Democrats are going to hammer Republicans over and over again on this issue.
Harold Lenton, great to see you this morning.
Great to see you. Happy early Thanksgiving.
His energy is just so like intoxicating to me. It's why I play his clips all the time. But here he just laid out the numbers, right? So yesterday I played you the clip that went viral on CNN where the anchor was waiting for the breaking news of Donald Trump to release his healthcare plan, which, by the way, we've been waiting for like 11 years, nonetheless. And the breaking news was what? Oh, the White House isn't releasing their plan. Why? Because they don't have consensus, and also they actually don't have a plan. They haven't had a plan. Obamacare has been the law of the land for 15 years. And for 15 years, Republicans have been trying to get rid of it. Donald Trump is their only vehicle to do so. But here's the thing that I said, and I said this earlier today. You guys should go check out my interview with Ahmad Baba that is up right now on Substack. Check it out after the show. But here's the thing. Donald Trump could make the smartest move ever. Donald Trump could go ahead and extend the ACA subsidies for 3 years. He could then turn himself into the healthcare president. He could allow the spin to take over and Republicans move on and say, oh, look what we've been able to do. We've extended the subsidies, right? Taking away a talking point from the Democrats and naming him the healthcare president. And he didn't actually come up with a plan or do anything. But here's the thing, why Donald Trump won't do this and why Republicans won't do it either. Because they're cruel. Even the worst of the worst dictators and authoritarians, they give their people just enough. They take enough people out of poverty. They have a strong economy. They do just enough, right? To keep the people happy enough not to try and overthrow the government, right? And so that they can continue holding on to power. Donald Trump, though, and the MAGA Republicans, nope. Don't care about their constituency, don't care about their base, and they just want to be as cruel and as greedy as fucking possible. And so here is an opportunity for Donald Trump to look like a hero because you know what he loves to do. He loves to break shit and then put it back together. And that's exactly what he's trying to do here with the government shutdown, with the ACA. And so now there is a possibility, like Enton said, like over 50% that these are going to be extended because guess what? The Republicans are starting to realize maybe Donald Trump isn't going to be king forever. Maybe Donald Trump is actually a lame duck president. And if I continue to go along with his bullshit, knowing that he is going to be gone in 3 years, but I'm trying to stay in power for multiple terms, then I got to give my constituents something. And something tells me that tax breaks to billionaires ain't it. It ain't the selling point. So what exactly are you going into midterms with? What are you offering? Why am I not voting for a Democrat or not voting at all if I'm a Republican? Right? I can't fucking buy groceries Tariffs are through the roofs. Everything is much more expensive. I can't buy a car. Surely can't buy a home, not with the interest rates the way that they are. So what are you offering? And if it isn't an extension of the ACA so that millions of people, by the way, a majority of which are in rural states that access the marketplace that Obamacare created, if you're not doing that, then what are you running on? Kidnapping people in the middle of the street? Killing people in ICE custody? Destroying businesses in small towns because you've taken away all of their workers? What exactly are they running on? They don't have shit to run on. And speaking of shit that they don't have to run on, the economy and where the market is right now. So again, New York Times. Market volatility underscores epic buildup of global risk. Some experts see a dangerous combination of factors reminiscent of practices that led to previous financial crises. Interesting. The stock market bounces in recent weeks are just one indicator of the profound uncertainty and heightened risks running through the global economy and financial system. It's not simply that hundreds of billions of dollars flooding onto artificial intelligence investments might turn out to be a bubble, which I continue to talk about here because that's what we all need to be watching, or that the use of cryptocurrencies in mainstream banking is spreading even as their values have plunged after soaring to record highs, or the billion-dollar bankruptcies related to a mad rush of lending by shadow banks. It is also the titanic levels of debt that the United States and other governments have built up. Trump's erratic policies zigzags, and the possibility that the cornerstone of this administration's economic agenda, tariffs, could be ruled unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. I have just been flabbergasted that market measures of volatility have been so low up until recently, said Kenneth Rogoff, a professor of economics at Harvard University. The stock market run up, the S&P 500 is still up about 14%. I want you guys to listen to this part. Listen to this in particular, because it's incredibly important and telling. The stock market run up, the S&P 500 is still up about 14% this year, despite the recent shivers. Could foreshadow widespread economic gains. But Mr. Rogoff doesn't think that is the case, and this is what he says. A big part of the high stock prices is not a reflection of high future growth. He said, rather, it is a sign that AI is expected to boost productivity and shrink employment. The firms all think they're going to shed a lot of labor, and that's why the profits will be high. And while the construction of data centers to power artificial intelligence is fueling economic growth now, these centers, once built, employ skeleton staffs. So what does this say? What does this spell, dear friends? One major circle jerk that is happening with the Magnificent Seven. They are all colluding to fire, the continuation of firing hundreds of thousands of workers across all of their companies, across industries, by selling people the idea that artificial intelligence is going to replace workers that you don't need to pay health insurance, you don't need to pay any benefits for, you don't need to provide a 401k or matching or anything. You don't need to compete for these workers because you were essentially going to create what? The Hunger Games, where there is going to be more workers than there are job slots. And those workers are going to compete for what is going to be the bare fucking minimum in terms of jobs. Because these companies are not going to have to do anything in order to get right? The kinds of employees that they need. They're not going to have to compete. They're not going to have to offer much. Instead, they're going to take what few actual human workers that they have, grind them out. And if you don't show up, if you don't do the job, if you're asking for more, you're out. And they'll bring in somebody else that will do your job for less. And this is not just happening at the quote unquote factory level. This is at the white collar middle management level that is being decimated. And that's part of the plan, right? Donald Trump's economic advisor got up and told us, oh, the beautiful thing, the beauty of AI is that it's going to make the workforce more efficient and leaner. You got to pay attention to the language that these motherfuckers are using, because it is all about how they consolidate even more of the money that is being made by workers by eliminating those workers, replacing them with AI. But by the way, folks, it's not as if the prices of anything that we actually use are going to go down. No, they'll keep the prices the same. And there'll just be less people. It's actually quite insane when you start to think about it. The swoon level stock market valuations of companies like Nvidia, which we've talked about multiple times here, at $5 trillion, seem to be predicated on the assumption that rapid growth will go on and on. Some of the players spending billions of dollars have yet to turn a profit. Critics warn that a small group of tech companies, the Magnificent Seven, including Nvidia, are essentially buying and selling to each other in circular deals that inflate their actual value. .com much? Because that's exactly what it sounds like to me. So you have a few companies that are trading basically monopoly money back and forth to egg up the valuation of their companies, to then inflate the value of their stocks, that then they buy up in mass and then sell off, much in the same way that Peter Thiel and SoftBank have sold off their Nvidia shares. And that is what a bubble looks like. They know exactly what the fuck it is that they are doing. And truly, here is the fact that they're not going to be the ones that pay when the bubble bursts. It is going to be us. And that, to me, is the scariest part of it all. Because, folks, when you look at what is tied into the stock market, it's 401ks, right? It's pensions. People will lose their life savings. We've seen this rinse and repeat over and over again. How many times has this happened in the last 25 years? Too many. And yet, none of these greedy, disgusting people are ever held accountable. It's the rest of us that lose our homes, that lose our businesses, that lose our savings. And then guess what? When you try and re-enter the job market, now you're competing with a robot. Now you're competing with artificial intelligence, not the immigrant that they told you to be afraid of. It's all been one giant Ponzi scheme. And they have the grifter in chief that has rolled out policies so that we can't even regulate AI, and taken away the power of the states to regulate AI, because we know that when this bubble bursts, which it will soon, it will burst while Donald Trump is president of the United States. And he will tell us, unfortunately, the similar thing that Obama told us. Well, these companies are too big to fail. And then it will be our tax dollars that will be used to bail out trillionaires? Like, does that sound right to you? And this is what, you don't take my word for it, because AOC said something very similar last week, where she was cautioning people because everyone sees where this is going. Cautioning the committees not to decide to bail out big tech because they're too big to fail. We should have let the banks fucking fail and actually had the imagination to think and create a type of an economy that works for people. You have to understand that all of these things, all of these ideas that we've taken as like the word, they've only come from a small group of people, right? That didn't know everything. And as you gather more information, then you can create new things with them. Capitalism is an extractive, exploitive system. So if Obama had allowed the banks to fail, couldn't we have had the opportunity to create something different? And also, I don't know, create the guardrails and put them in place so that the kinds of Ponzi schemes that are continually run on Wall Street wouldn't happen, because the penalties could be more than just a slap on the wrist of, oh, here's a little penalty of a couple $100,000 when you're worth tens of billions. No, here's jail time. It's the same thing that I say about Donald Trump, right? Had Nixon actually been held accountable for his crimes and been thrown in jail, do you think a Donald Trump would exist? When you do not hold guilty parties responsible, when there is no accountability, then what comes next is usually worse than what we saw initially. And folks, not to spoil your holiday week, but just imagine for a moment what could be worse than Donald Trump. Because that's surely what's coming our way. Another story that I want to bring to your attention today, because I got to tell you, when I saw it, my heart sank. And it sank for a couple of reasons. And I think that it's always really important, because all of you guys in Damnation continually ask, what can I do, right? What can I do with what I have, the platform that I have, the positions that I'm in? How can I be of service? And I love that you all ask that question. And one of the things that I say is to remember important stories, to share them, right? To share these videos, to like, to subscribe, to do all of those things. But when you learn something, not to hoard that information, but to share it with others, so that important stories from America's history don't get erased. They don't get gutted. They don't get buried like this one. So yesterday, we lost the last surviving member of the Tulsa race massacre. She was 111 years old, Viola Fletcher. At 7 years old, she bore witness to one of American history's most violent spasms of racial violence. She was 106 when the nation reckoned with the crime. And what I want to say about this, that sentence, she was 106 when the nation reckoned with the crime. America did not provide justice for the crime that I'm going to get ready to explain to you. It just decided that it actually happened, and maybe we should start talking about it. That was the reckoning, excavating what had been buried for over 100 years. Viola Fletcher, who was a child in 1921, saw her affluent Black neighborhood torched by white citizens in what became known as the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the most violent acts of racial violence in American history, and who, a century later, testified in Congress to the terror she witnessed in the hope of winning reparations, has died. She was 111 and the oldest survivor of the attack. Early on the morning of June 1st, 1921, Viola woke up to a banging sound. She thought it was someone beating a rug, she said, until her mother hollered for her to get out of bed immediately. The day before, word had spread in Tulsa that a 19-year-old black shoe shiner, Dick Rowland, had attempted to rape a 17-year-old white elevator operator, Sarah Page, in the building where she worked. Miss Page later denied that Mr. Rowland had done anything wrong, and the case was dropped. But by then, inflamed by the rumors, many of Tulsa's white citizens were already set on imposing their own idea of justice. Hundreds of heavily armed white men gathered outside the courthouse where Mr. Rowland was being held. Soon, armed black veterans of World War I arrived as well, seeking to prevent a lynching. A scuffle ensued and a shot was fired. The next morning, the assault began. And this is what I want you all to pay attention to, because this is the kind of true story about America. The ones that this regime is trying to erase. The ones that America, frankly, before Donald Trump, have always tried to bury and elevate their stories of American exceptionalism without ever reconciling with its original sin of racism. We have spent centuries filling and indoctrinating youth with lies about how great America is. And when I want you to close your eyes for a moment and listen to what happened, what Viola Fletcher at 7 years old experienced. Over 16 hours, nearly 3 dozen blocks in Greenwood were looted and set ablaze. More than 1,000 homes were destroyed, as were almost all of the district's Black-owned businesses. Theaters, restaurants, hotels, barbershops, and the offices of doctors and lawyers and real estate brokers, according to a 2001 report by an Oklahoma commission that had examined the riot. In December 1921, the American Red Cross determined that close to the entire population of the neighborhood had become homeless. There is still no consensus about the death toll. The Red Cross puts it at 55 to 300 people. Viola's family fled in a horse and buggy. As they were leaving Tulsa, she recalled she saw ash falling on the streets, reminding her of snow. She also saw, as others witnesses did, an airplane dropping what looked like fire bombs. She passed piles of corpses. She saw a white man blow off a black man's head with a shotgun, she said. Nobody was held legally responsible for the destruction and the deaths. In the years to come, the Tulsa massacre was not widely taught in American history classes. In Tulsa itself, memory was suppressed. Police records vanished. Newspaper archives were tampered with, and victims were buried in unmarked graves. Some residents reached adulthood, unaware that the massacre had happened. But its 100th anniversary in 2021 brought it renewed attention, coming a year after the murder of George Floyd, a black man, by a white Minneapolis police officer had sparked nationwide protests. And this was the post that Barack Obama put up. As a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre, Viola Ford Fletcher bravely shared her story so that we'd never forget this painful part of our history. Michelle and I are grateful for her lifelong work to advance civil rights and send love to her family. Her story breaks my heart because Miss Viola Fletcher died at 111 years old, with no one ever being accountable for the destruction and terrorism that she saw at the tender age of 7 years old. Those that look and seek to erase and whitewash America's history tell us that, oh, children shouldn't be taught to hate this country. And yet it is Black families that continually have to tell their young children, burst their bubbles at tender ages, to express to them the terror that this country will show them. And they do so as a way to protect them. You get the talk about police officers. You get the talk about where to walk and how to be and how respectful you need to be. But white children, white families, oh, they get to walk around in perpetual states of adolescence, never to have to reconcile with the savagery of this nation. Justice died with Viola Fletcher. 111. She waited a century, essentially, for justice that never came. From a country that she watched time and time again bury the truth. You see, what always gets me is that the Tulsa massacre is the most famous massacre. There are massacres that took place all over this country for centuries. You see, white Americans always wanted to talk about the fact that Black people are lazy and stupid and undeserving of the positions that they get. We hear it now from this regime. And yet, when they had their separate and unequal, and Black people created businesses and housing and thriving communities, they all went up in flames. The number of lynchings that have actually taken place in this country, we will never know. America's soil is blood-soaked. Black bodies are fertilizer for the injustices that continue to cycle through this country because we refuse to honor every single part of our history, the good, the bad, and the absolutely grotesque. You see, you have to understand that white America never wanted separate and equal. They wanted separate and subjugated. Because Black people have always risen to the challenge, have always risen beyond the racist systems. And they hate that. It's why now over 300,000 Black women have been fired from their job since Donald Trump came into office. Because where were a majority of Black women employed? The federal government. And as Donald Trump rolled back DEI initiatives and rolled back, right, opportunities that would allow for there to be equity in hiring, private industry followed right along. And all of those, solidarity after the murder of George Floyd just withered and died on the vine. And with it, the opportunities that should have always been given to Black people, to Black women, vanished. What kills white racists in America is that even with all of the obstacles, even with the systemic oppression, Black people still find a way to be excellent. And that excellence is an affront to their mediocrity. Imagine being given a 400-year head start and still being a fucking failure. It's astonishing. And so for me, it is important that I remind you all why storytelling matters, why the work that I do as an independent creator matters. Because mainstream corporate media doesn't tell these stories. They don't connect the dots because they're in cahoots with the powers that be. You will see over the next years or so as more and more Black and brown faces are removed from television, are removed from anchor desks and chairs, as newsrooms go back to being white, straight, cis-centered. It is up to us to share these stories, to tell these truths, to ensure that they're not forgotten. Over the last decade, I have spent, I don't know how many hundreds and probably now tens of thousands of hours on air, recording the moment that we're living in, putting it out so that it can't be erased, so that it can be everywhere all at once. So when I encourage all of you to like, to comment, and share, it is to be a part of this storytelling. It is to be a witness to what is going on, because I will tell you that decades from now, the stories, if this country is even still standing, that will be told about this moment won't even make sense to some of us that lived it. So we have to bear witness. We have to share the stories. We have to keep the truth alive. And that is how I am choosing to honor the 111-year life of Viola Ford Fletcher. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. It is Tuesday, so we are about to roll into Town Hall Tuesday for the next 10 minutes or so of this show. So, dear friends, for those of you that are new, please do write question in big capital letters followed by your question. It could be about anything that I discussed. It could be about anything on your mind. It could be about anything about me personally that you're curious about and want to know. But before I jump into that, please do like, comment, and subscribe. I keep all of my content free because I believe that democracy and critical thinking die behind a paywall. But if you do have a few bucks, folks, do consider sending a super sticker or a super thanks or becoming a paid member of this YouTube channel. And if you're watching on Substack, again, do consider liking, subscribing, and sharing and becoming a subscriber and a paid subscriber if you have the resources to do so. But know that if you don't, you'll never miss any of my content. All right, friends, without further ado, let's get into Town Hall Tuesday. All right, dear friends, it is time for Town Hall Tuesday on the Danielle Moodie Show, where you get to ask me whatever questions that you may have. And for the next 10 minutes or so, I will do my best to answer. So let's start off with Jen. Question: can we sue the government for not allowing us to pursue happiness? Because I've only ever been able to pursue healthcare insurance. Oh, that is a question, and I love it, because I would love to sue this government for my mental distress. I would love for them to pay my therapy bills, right? Because didn't they owe us that? Is that not what folks said in the Constitution, that we are right entitled to pursue happiness? So wonderful question, and I would be a part of that class action if you would like to put it together. Question from YouTube handle 0. Question: what's your favorite Thanksgiving food? Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being here. What is my favorite Thanksgiving food? Macaroni and cheese. It's also my specialty. I'm the one that makes it. But macaroni and cheese is absolutely my favorite. I could like literally take a fork to the tray. Love it. Oh, love this. Norma. Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving family tradition or a particular dish from family gatherings? Yes, in my family, because we are Jamaican, we usually do two turkeys, which is one traditional turkey and one jerked turkey. This year we are opting, because here's the real shit. No one really likes turkey, right? It's kind of fucking dry, which is why you have gravy. Nonetheless, we're doing one traditional turkey and one jerked pork. That is my favorite. It is always adding some type of Jamaican element to Thanksgiving that I love very much and that my family does. AR for real. Danielle, would you ever consider running for Congress? No. You all ask me this question all the time about running for office. I have no desire. One, I don't have a billionaire benefactor that is going to support that run, because that's how much it fucking costs to run for office. And two, I don't want to. You think I would want to go to work with Marjorie Taylor Greene Light, even though she is resigning? I don't want to work with those people. I don't want to see them every day. I think that being in Congress has to be one of the most miserable fucking jobs right now. Now, before the Trump regime, 10 years ago, did I ever think about maybe later in life running for office? Yes. In this current landscape that I see being just what it is for the foreseeable future, absolutely not. Nor also, folks, let's be real. All you have to do is run clips of shit that I have said, and I don't think that people would vote for me. Just saying. But thank you for your question. Yes, that's the fucking show. Gus, thank you. Every single time that I mean to give credit to the Watchmen series, I totally forget the name of the show. So, question: have you seen the Watchmen TV series? The pilot episode powerfully dramatizes the attack on Tulsa's Black Wall Street and brought knowledge of it to a lot of unaware people. Yes, Gus, that was the show. And I believe it was canceled. And Gus, tell me, was it on HBO? I forget what network it was on, but I know that the show was canceled. But it was that episode, their pilot episode, that went viral because people wanted to know if it was true. And then the director, writers, and those that were actors on the show were like, yes, it's true. It's a part of American history. And that is how it was brought back. And then with the 100th anniversary, and Joe Biden being the first, I believe he was the first president to recognize and to actually go to Tulsa. That is what, thank you, Gus. That is what prompted it. D-dash question: how do you feel about folks who voted third party in 2024? I'm having a hard time forgiving my friends who fucked around and voted third party. Here's the thing. Do I think that that election was the election to vote third party? Absolutely fucking not, because the consequences were too great, right? But then I also have another side of myself that is just like, well, if not now, then when? Right? And so I'm more pissed off. I'll say this. D. I'm more angry at the people who stayed home and didn't vote because they didn't think that Donald Trump was as dangerous as he was than those that actually voted but chose not to vote for Republican or Democrat. I'm more angry at the people that were just like, oh, I'm not into politics, right? Like, imagine if we had 100% turnout in this country. Like, imagine, I've always said, imagine if voting were mandatory, right? It's mandatory to get a license if you want to drive a car. So if you are to be an engaged citizen of these United States, why isn't it mandatory that you vote, that you actually A, know about this country, right? And B, that you're required to vote and show up. Why isn't election day a national holiday so that everyone has the ability to go and vote regardless about what time they get off of work? Questions that need answering. Oh, good question. Latasha, question. Do you think Trump will fire Patel? So that is one of the rumors that were going around today. I think Politico was the first to report. No, it was MS Now, not MSNBC. MS Now was the first to report on this rumor that Donald Trump is getting ready to fire Kash Patel, which frankly would probably be the best thing for Kash Patel, because then he could get back on his grifting circuit with the brolosphere who are against Donald Trump now, and be able to talk about, I was inside and this is what happened. Do I think he's going to get fired? I don't know. Donald Trump really hasn't fired anybody this time around. He's keeping all of the idiots in their jobs. So should he be fired? Abso-fucking-lutely. But will he? I don't know. Thank you so much. Question, Philip. Did you know Angela Davis ran as the vice president candidate on the Communist Party ticket against Reagan? Do you know what? I read her biography. I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that at all. Oh, that's so interesting. Thank you for sharing. Question, PJ, what's your favorite holiday music? Oh, I mean, Mariah Carey's like 90s album. I am always partial to play that, even though now it's become like an entire like gag, but I've loved that album even before it became like a thing. This is such a random question. Danielle, do you or have you ever eaten chitlins? No. One, because my family is Jamaican. And that is a very like traditional Black American soul food dish. And then when I learned what they were, no. Funny though. You Norker, what's the name of that shade of nail polish? I actually have no idea. I got my nails done like 2 days ago, and I wanted something that was holiday. So it's like this emerald, emerald green. I don't know. I didn't actually write down the name of it. And sometimes I do. So when people ask me that, I can tell them, but it's like this emerald forest green, which is my favorite color. And so it's holiday, but not too holiday. Thank you. Question, what is your thinking on universal income? We should have it. I think that there should be a universal income, basic income for people in this country. We have the means to do it. But keeping people broke is just, it pays, right? Like, that's the thing. It's just like, why, do you believe in preventative healthcare? Yes, but the benefit is in keeping people sick, right? Just sick enough, right? Then, there's no cost benefit to these companies to cure people, right? Then they lose customers, they lose clients. But universal basic income, yes. And I was thinking about it the other day, to be honest. I was like, what would be, and I guess, I would leave this to economists, and I'm sure that there have been people that have done this, that have done this work, that in the United States, what would the universal basic income, what should it be that would provide housing, food, and clothing for people, right? And then anything that you make on top of that is what you make, but that those basic needs are met. And I think that there are countries in the Middle East, right, the oil-rich nations that do have, right, some basic income, and I think it's like at $40,000 a year is like the base that you could make, and because of that, low poverty or zero poverty, which should be the goal. So yes, I do. Purpose 2025. What is your dream job? Well, I'm kind of doing it. My dream job has always been to be a voice for the people, to educate the masses. But my other dream job is to be a published author. I would like to write a book. And so published author would be successfully published author is my other dream job. But thankfully I get to do this job. That was a good question. Coming up towards the end, looking for, okay, folks said Watchmen was on HBO. Thank you so much, folks. And I'm pretty sure you could probably still watch it. Maybe they still have it like on demand. Oh, Norma, had you heard that journalist Jamal Khashoggi was working on a story about Jared Kushner's passing sensitive info to MBS/Russia? No, but I believe it. I believe it, and I believe that they were all in cahoots in having that man killed as well. Coming towards the end, folks. Oh, so good. Deb, question. This is for my WNBA folks. What do you think of the Liberty head coach coaching hire? So here's my thought. I don't know anything about him. He was an assistant coach at the Golden State Warriors, right, for the last like 10 years or whatever. My thing with the WNBA and their coaches is that I don't understand where all the women are. There are no, and also the league is majority Black women, and you don't have any Black women as coaches anymore after the firing of Noel, right? So I'm just like, it's a women's league, right? It's majority women of color. I'm not saying that every single coach needs to be a woman of color, but to have zero and to have a shrinking number of women coaches in the WNBA and it now being the pipeline for the NBA coaches is wild to me. I think it's wild. And I think it's a miscalculation by the front office. Interesting. Coming up on my last two questions. Mel, okay, hear me out. Do you think it would be easier to infiltrate the Green Party rather than the Democratic Party? Well, my follow-up question to you would be, what do you mean by infiltrate? Do you mean by take over and grow the party bigger? Do you mean by creating a different tent? That's my follow-up question to you. All right, folks. Thank you for the question. So you just folks just asked what my dream job was. How is your book coming along? It is coming along. Put positive energy for me out into the universe that somebody actually wants to pick it up. But yes, it is coming along, but do put positive energy out that someone somewhere would like a book by me. All right, folks, that is it for me today here with this Town Hall Tuesday. Y'all had some really great questions, and I appreciate them. I also want to shout out the super stickers and super thanks before I head out of here. As always, our fabulous moderator, Susan, thank you so much for the $10. T-Gal, thank you so much for the 3. Grizzle, thank you so much for the 2. And in the middle of nowhere, gifted a Danielle Moodie membership. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. D, thank you so much for $4.99. E. Schwartz is always coming in. Thank you so much for $5. No Pepper Spray. Thank you so much for $5. In the middle of nowhere, $2. Thank you so much. And again, $5 from No Pepper Spray. Appreciate you. And Carmen, thank you so very much for the $20. Folks, every single dollar that you provide allows me to continue to do the work that I do with integrity and passion that you all deserve. I am back tomorrow. So, a couple of things. I am on Substack live at 12 p.m. Eastern with Jared Yates Sexton for the check-in. I am live again at some point with Wajahat Ali for our midweek check-in, but I forget what time it is. I want to say that it's at 1 p.m. tomorrow because we're changing up times for the holidays. And then I'm back here tomorrow for the Danielle Moodie Show at 5 p.m. Eastern. Folks, appreciate each and every single one of you. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these incredibly dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow. Appreciate you.